Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, Wes Richardson Unfiltered. I wanted to do a separate chapter series called Finding Ellis. Now I'm going to do my best to kind of explain what this is without rambling, but there's a lot. In 2025, I went to go see my mom for Thanksgiving. My mom gave me a letter written by a member of the Bolynn family, spelled B-O-L-Y-N-N. And the letter was written by one of the service members of one of the children of the Bolynn family. They had 10 children, 7 boys and 3 girls. One of those girls of the family was my great-grandmother, Bessie Bolynn Raspberry. So anyway, I read the letter, and it was basically written by a guy named Dewey. Dewey's full name was Louis Duval Bolynn, and Dewey was about to go over to, he was about to go overseas and serve in World War II. So I found that of the 10 brothers and sisters, 4 of them served in World War II. 2 of them were in the Navy. The other 2 served in the Army. One of them was Louis Duval Bolynn. That's who I was just talking about, who wrote the letter. And the second one is William Ellis Bolynn. So the guy that wrote the letter, Dewey, that my mom gave me, found that he died about a year after that letter was written. I'll talk a little bit more about him in the next chapter, but today I wanted to focus on Ellis, the other son. So I started looking up Ellis, and there's very little info out there about Ellis, but he was killed in World War II. Let's see, he was around 25 years old. He didn't marry, he didn't have any kids, and I think that's a reason why there's not a lot of information out there outside of his military records. So I started diving in to see how much information I could find on Ellis, and it has just turned into a thing. Let me explain. So Ellis was a combat infantry rifleman in the Army. The reports say that he was charging on a hill near the Belgium-German line, and he was killed by machine gun fire from a pillbox. A pillbox, if you can imagine, a 10 by 10 structure made of mortar and stone, and it's got holes in the side, machine guns stick out, and they fire away. So he was advancing on this hill, and he was killed by machine gun fire. The last reports show that the last time Ellis was seen was on September 15, 1944. And it was determined that he was missing on that day, and eventually they just determined that he was killed on that day. But the thing is, his body, though they found bodies in that vicinity, his specific body was never identified and brought home. Now, as of now, they have thousands of unidentified soldiers from World War II. So imagine a soldier dies and later on they find remains. They basically have those, and they pull DNA samples from those. And they're looking to find matches from family, so if they do, they can send them home. Well, Ellis, because his body was never identified, he's been assigned a caseworker that is working to see if they can get DNA samples from the family. After the lab finishes, if they find a body that matches our DNA, they will send Ellis home. So can you imagine? Ellis was killed in 1944, now it's 2025. Can you imagine being able to bring his body home and celebrating his life and giving him a proper burial? To me, that would be awesome. So, I wanted to mention, I'm an Army veteran. I served from 2003 to 2007. I was with the 509th Signal Battalion attached to the 173rd Airborne Brigade. Now, I'm not mentioning that to by any means take away from Ellis's service. I'm mentioning that so you can understand that this has become very relevant to me. And since I've learned about this, I'm trying to figure out a way of what can I do in memory of them in order to honor their service. You know, I really don't know what it is. It's like I got a hook in me. So I will say I gave 4 years of my life to my country in the United States Army. Ellis gave it all. Ellis gave all there is to give. So again, this is my way of honoring Dewey and his service and his sacrifice, and in remembrance of my great granduncle. So what I've decided to do is a series called Finding Ellis. So this is going to be in remembrance of him and his brother, and this is my way of just honoring their service, so they're just not forgotten. The end goal would be identifying Ellis's body and having it sent home. So again, the series is called Finding Ellis, and it's going to be like a multi-chapter thing. I'm still going here. You can see this book. I mean, it's just loaded with all this information I'm finding. So I wanted to try and break it down into chapters. So this chapter is just going to be me explaining what it is, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Ellis and the information that I found so far. The next chapter, I'll probably talk about his brother, Dewey, Louis Duval Bolynn. So you got a mom and dad with 10 children. Bolyns, right? A lot of them lived in Gastonia, North Carolina, near Firestone or Luray Mill, around the mill villages of that area. Maybe we'll do a tour of the area and show you some of the houses that they lived in. A lot of the family members were born in Georgetown, South Carolina. I found several of their graves. Maybe we'll do a chapter visiting the graves. But just know, as of now, my DNA sample is in the mail, headed to Fort Knox for some testing to see if we can match my DNA with Ellis's body. I've also got a couple other people on my mom's side of the family that are donating as well. So yeah, chapter 1, finding Ellis. So let me just show you a few things that I found about Ellis so far. So for one, I am not a, what do you call this? Ancestorian? Genealogist. I am not a genealogist. If you are a genealogist and you want to help, please feel free to do so. Or the Bolynn family in general. Like I said, there's 4 of them that served. If you do find more information on Ellis, you can email that to me at richardsonunfiltered@gmail.com. richardsonunfiltered@gmail.com. So that's number 1. And then second thing, I've noticed that a lot of the family members, imagine you got a mom and dad and you got 10 kids. Of the 10 Bolynn kids, 6 or 7 of them went by their family nickname. Fun fact, I had a family nickname too. I was called Duke, like John Wayne, the Duke. So hear me out. Lillian Boyd Bolynn went by Leland. Leroy Artigas Bolynn went by Roy. Burdette Bolynn Hardy went by Lily. Louis Duval Bolynn went by Dewey. William Ellis Bolynn went by the middle name, Ellis. Kept it easy. Andrew Thomas Bolynn went by A.T. And you got Wilson Doyle Bolynn, the youngest of the kids. He went by Bill, but Bill Wilson. You see the confusion here? So anyway, again, if you got any information, if you want to take on the challenge, if you are a genealogist and you want to help, please email richardsonunfiltered@gmail.com. So let's take a look at some of the stuff I found on Ellis. All right, so real quick, before we dive into Ellis, I just wanted to show you the list of family members. So here's a thing I've created. There might be some errors in here. If you're Bolynn and you're watching, shoot me a message. I did the best I could. But anyway, here up top, we got the father, William David Bolynn, and then there's the mom. I was calling her Hattie. I was calling her Haiti. But I think it's Hattie. I think it might be a Bible name. I'm not sure. But anyway, and then down below are the 10 children. So the firstborn, and this is in order of birth, the firstborn is Bessie. That's my great-grandmother, Bessie Raspberry. You got Herman, the firstborn boy. This guy had 11 children. God said, be fruitful and multiply, and they did it several times. And then you got, so 7 boys, 3 girls. So Bessie, Catherine, and Burdette, those are the 3 girls. And then you got Leland, Roy, and Lily. Now down here in green, these are the guys that served in the Army that were killed. And then in blue, these are the Navy guys. So Louis Duval Bolynn, that's Dewey. We'll look at him in chapter 2. He was the one that was killed in an airplane crash. I've got a letter written that's actually framed behind me here. You see it on the wall. But this one here, the one underlined with green and stars, this is Ellis. This is who we're looking to identify his body and bring him home. And this is what we're doing. We're doing this to remember Ellis and also Dewey as well. So here's a list of the family. So let's just start with Ellis's birth. He was born August 7th of 1919. And here is his certificate of birth, his birth certificate that I found. You can see here, William Ellis Bolynn. There's his mama, born in Hemingway, South Carolina. I found a ton of addresses for Hemingway, South Carolina, Georgetown, South Carolina, and I found a large grave site by a church in Georgetown, South Carolina. A lot of the Bolynn family was buried, so that'll be another chapter, visiting cemetery. And check it out. It's got William, his dad, listed as a farmer, and then over to the right, you can see his mom is listed as a housewife. That was very common, especially on these censuses from the 20s, 30s, 40s. A lot of them are listed as a lot of the females are listed as housewife. All right, so let's take a look at some of the early records that I can find with Ellis and the kids. So we got his birth, August 7, 1919, and then I found a census from 1920. And if you look really close, you'll see the Bolynn name here. And beside it, so it was common for them to list the Bolynn name with the father's name beside it, and then they didn't repeat the Bolynn name beside. They just listed like middle name, nicknames. It's confusing. But anyway, you'll see Bolynn Will. So over to the right, you see Head, which is head of household. And then under it, you'll see his wife, Hattie. Hattie. Anyway, you'll see his wife under. You'll see her under. And then you've got my great grandmother Bessie, and it says, I don't know what occupation. Anyway, then you got Herman, blah 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 blah, and it goes down. If you look close, you'll see Duval. That's Louis Duval Bolynn. He went by Dewey. Again, chapter 2, we'll look at his letter. That's the guy that died in an airplane crash. And then right under him, you will see Ellis. Over to the right, it's listed as son. All of the in 1920, this is listed in South Carolina. And then under occupation over to the right, the father, William, or Will, again, you see he's listed, but I didn't get it. His first formal name is William. He's going by Will here, and on formal records, Will, right? But over to the right, it says farmer or farming. So what's kind of interesting, all these documents that I'm seeing, these early documents, they were listed as farmers and this and that. And, but if you look at the date that the father died, anything after that, all the records and addresses are in Gastonia, North Carolina. So here's my theory, and I don't know this, Bolynn family, if you're watching, you can help me. But imagine being a husband, have a wife, and then you have 10 kids. Well, all of a sudden the husband dies. And now you're a mom left with 10 kids. What do you do? So I can't help but wonder if somehow she heard about the mill villages of Gastonia, North Carolina, around the Luray mills or the Firestone mill, because after his father's death, all you see is Gastonia addresses and Gastonia records. By the way, Gastonia is where I was born and where I live. I think it was 1115 West 4th Avenue and 1116 West 4th, which there's records on here from the Bolynn family as well. So it's just interesting to see. It seems like, again, after the father died, everybody moved to Gastonia, North Carolina. All right, so here's the next census I found from 1930. And again, you can see the Bolynn name to the right. It says William Head, meaning head of household. You see Hattie again underneath. And then towards the middle, you'll see Duval for Louis Duval or Dewey. And then under that, very faint, you can see Ellis. There's Ellis. The record is South Carolina. The occupation on this one is listed as none for majority of the kids. For the father, William, it says laborer. All right, so last census, I've got through 3 or 4 more of these. I'm just going to stop at this one, but this is where it gets a little interesting. You'll see the Bolynn name on this one, and then look right underneath, you'll see Dewey. So that is Louis Duval Bolynn. And this is the guy, again, that died in the airplane crash. We'll talk about him in chapter 2. But this is a formal document, and they're listing his name as his family nickname, Dewey. And then if you look right under it, there is Ellis. And then, of course, you got the Navy, got AT, and this and that. What's interesting, if you look over on Ellis's name, if you go over to the right, it says highest level of education, 6th grade. 6th grade, and of all the Bolynn kids, the highest I do see is 6th grade. Some of these other people, this Bollick last name, 1st grade. But anyway, and then if you go over to the right, this is the first time where you start seeing stuff mentioned about the cotton mill of Gastonia, North Carolina, Firestone Mill or Luray Mill, wherever you want to call it. But you'll start seeing them listed. So over to the right, you will see Doffer written under occupation beside Ellis's name. So I asked my mom, I've got people in my family that worked at cotton mills. I asked mom and my dad what this is, and they said, I'm not even going to try to explain it because I'm going to sound like an idiot because I don't really understand it, but I think it's somebody that pulled cotton spools, yarn off of, look, I just said I'm not going to explain it. I just tried to, and you can see what just happened. So it's a position at a cotton mill. And then over to the right, you'll see it says cotton mill. So that had to be Firestone Mill or Lorraine Mill of Gastonia, North Carolina. And again, it's almost like after the father passed, they all just moved to Gastonia and started working cotton mills. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm showing here. So let's move on to something else. So far we have got a few census showing his name on documents from 1920s, 30s, and 40s. And now we move on to the military service portion. And so this is his draft card. This is actually listed in our National Archives. You can do a Freedom of Information, submit a Freedom of Information Act request, and they'll actually send you this stuff. Some of it, you don't even have to request it. It's just listed in the National Archives. I'll put that link in the description for you. But you can see his draft card here, William Ellis Bolynn. And this was actually in his deceased personnel file. So they've written deceased here. You can see Hemingway, South Carolina's place of birth. Of course, there's his mom, and Burnett Street of Gastonia. I've tried looking up this address. I don't know if this house has been, I don't know if it's been like flat and then they made it a parking lot, but it's hard to find a 903. I can find a Burnett Street, but this address is listed all over the Bolynn documents. But there it is, Firestone Cotton Mills, Gastonia, North Carolina. And then this is his signature. This is the only thing that I can find in it where it actually has his handwriting. This is the only thing that I can find that has his handwriting. So I did find a document that says he enlisted in the Army on January 13th of 1944. So January 13th, 1944, he actually died on September 15th of the same year. So it's basically like he went to basic training, AIT training, sent off to war, and that was it. It's only about 9 months of service. So anyway, here's his draft card. Okay, so we've got birth record, born 1919. We've got a few other documents from the census showing kind of the move from South Carolina to North Carolina, showing a little bit on, 6th grade education, worked in a cotton mill in Gastonia, North Carolina. Let's dive into his military service. The stuff that I'm showing you here, this actually came from the a deceased military personnel file. It's actually listed online. You can go find this in our National Archives. On this, one of the things you'll see here, basically a physical evaluation or notes regarding the physical body of Ellis, right? And so something that just blew me away. If you look here, this guy was 5'7.5", 5'7.5", 115 pounds. This is a tiny fella. 115 pounds, 5'7". My left leg weighs 115 pounds. I'm just kidding. Anyway, but yeah, I just can't believe, like when I was in the Army, I don't know if you could be that small and actually enlist when I served. I mean, I guess maybe you could, I don't know. That's just very, I mean, I got a 13, 14-year-old nephew or niece that's that weight, right? So anyway, 115 pounds, 5'7", blue eyes, brown hair. And something that's also, it's got a shoe size here, 7.5 C. I don't know what C means. Over here, on some of these, it actually names the place where he was killed. But anyway, on some of these, it names his, it says religion, and I've seen a couple times it says Protestant Methodist, which that's a little surprising to me because on that side of the family, we have a lot of, I'm just going to say holiness denominations, whether it's Church of God, whether it's I don't even say Free Will Baptist. Pentecostal is a big one, but like Church of God, Pentecostal, holiness faith. It was kind of surprising to see Methodist on there. So anyway, and then also something I thought was kind of funny. On all of his teeth records or his dental records, they just write, okay, so I guess he just had good teeth, but there's no mention of any kind of cavities or any teeth missing or anything like that. So apparently Ellis, he had good teeth. So there's several of these, and they all are basically consistent. So this is where it gets sad. let's see, this document, well, actually, I'm just going to get right to it. This is a letter written to Ellis's mom, Hattie, explaining that he's missing. And if you notice in the first part of the letter, it says, Dear Miss Bolynn, I am referring to your communication concerning your son, Private First Class William Ellis Bolynn. Okay, so he says, I am referring to your communication. So his mama wrote them and said, where's my son? Apparently she hadn't heard from the son. She's trying to figure out what's going on. So she's writing the Army and saying, where is he? And then this is the first response that we see. Now, when I was in the Army, there was a time period where I went by and I was out there having a good time, and I wasn't writing home, wasn't calling. My grandmother actually contacted, on my dad's side, my grandmother contacted the American Red Cross, and the American Red Cross found my unit and they communicated the message. And then my first sergeant came to me and he was super mad. He was like, bro, we got your family contacting us and you went writing home. Like, why aren't you talking to your family? So anyway, I can't help but wonder if his mama did the same thing, if she contacted the American Red Cross and said, where's my son? And then the American Red Cross was able to communicate with this, with the unit that he was in. I don't know if that's the process, but I have considered reaching out to the Red Cross to see if I can actually find her letter and see what she wrote, if that would even be on record. So that's the first letter. And he basically says, your son's been missing since September 15, 1944. That is, later on, they determined that was his date of death, even though that was just the last day he was seen, the last day he was known about. So that's letter 1 saying your son's missing. Here's letter 2. They got it out of order. Oh, on the letter 1, he says, as I get more information, I'll let you know. This one says, hey, Miss Bolynn, same guy. As promised, I was writing again regarding your son, Private First Class William E. Bolynn, and it goes on to say, we still haven't received more information or any new information, blah, 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 blah. But notice this, folks, on this letter, do you see this? Oh, wait a minute, that's his service number, 735. I was about to say, I don't know what that is. I know what that is. I've looked at this stuff so much, I'm starting to get his service number memorized, 735. So again, another follow-up letter say, hey, we still haven't got any more information about your son. Now, here's the sad one. Well, they're all sad, but this is where it gets real. So this is a third letter written to Ellis's mother. This is from a chaplain. I'm not sure of his rank. Could be a captain. Not really sure. But anyway, he's writing his mom, and check it out. It says, Dear Miss Bolynn, I'm writing concerning the death of Private First Class William Ellis Bolynn. It gives his service number again, of Bravo Company Infantry, who was killed in action against the enemy on September 15, 1944. So this is written in April of the next year. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So 7 months later, after his last time he was seen, that's when they're formally letting her know, hey, your son's been killed. Here's the kicker. The chaplain writes, if you don't know what a chaplain is, this is somebody of faith. Usually they've gone to like a seminary school, they have a college degree, and they join as a chaplain. It was rare. I didn't see a lot of them when I was in the service, but they represent like the Catholic faith. Well, they'll have rank on, but they'll have like a cross, and then there's other chaplains for different faith, but this is a chaplain writing his mom. And again, this is where things get a little gray. It says, your son was buried in a United States Army cemetery with appropriate services by a chaplain of his faith. Okay, this is wrong. This is wrong. His body was never, they have found bodies, but they've never matched his to Ellis. And so he's never had a formal burial with a known grave, nor has he ever had a formal ceremony. This is simply incorrect. It's a little aggravating because he's writing Ellis's mom saying, hey, got your son. Sorry he died. We buried him, had a ceremony. Everything's good. That's a little frustrating. But then I try to think about what was going on during that time in World War II. You've got thousands and thousands of soldiers that are dying. And these officers are trying to do everything they can to keep all this together and notify the parents, the mother and fathers accordingly. And I just can't help but wonder if this guy was just mixing this up with someone else. Because again, his body was never identified and sent home, never had a ceremony, all that stuff. Down at the bottom, he did write, Miss Bolynn, although your sorrow is great, I'm sure you will be glad to know that your son was highly esteemed by the men of his company and that he was a very courageous soldier. You know, whatever rank this person is, I don't know if this chaplain actually knew him or actually talked to the people, or this is something that he was just in that repetition of writing over and over and over and over and over. He had to write a letter for every soldier that died, right? So who knows? Who knows if that was true? It's nice of him to say, but I mean, who knows? Who knows? Okay, we'll stop there for now for chapter 1. There is a lot of information, and then showing you this process, it would be way too much if I put it all together in one. But anyway, takeaway here is a chapter series called Finding Ellis, my great-granduncle who died in World War II. Again, end goal would be, for one, to have this here to honor him in some way, so we can remember him and his service to his country. And number 2, a hopeful end goal would be to identify his body with matching DNA and have his body sent home, so we can bring Ellis home. So again, unlike the other videos, you're not going to hear me asking for subscribers and likes and stuff like that. This is for Ellis. But again, if you have any information, please put that in the comments, or you can just email me at richardsonunfiltered@gmail.com. richardsonunfiltered@gmail.com. If you're the Bolynn family, I would love to see if we have any photos of Ellis. I just can't find any. Chapter 2, we're going to talk a little bit about his brother that died in an airplane crash, Dewey. We'll go over the letter, explain his, we'll talk a little bit about his life. We'll show you his wife, his child. He just had a child right before he joined the service and he died. So I've got some photos of the baby Kay and his wife May. So thanks again, everybody. Look forward to seeing you in chapter 2 of Finding Ellis.